let me give you.
Hello, chat. How's it going? I decided to stop streaming early in the morning, at least during the week, because I don't think a lot of people would be able to attend. So maybe I'm going to do the morning streams during Saturday and Sunday, and the rest I'll do them in the evening. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe we can flip them up every now and then, see how it's going to go. God bless Leia. I hope you're not from New York with that language, because I'm hearing bad things. I'm going to make a video tomorrow about the obfuscation in New York, because there's a lot of obfuscation going on. And Sargar Ovakat decided to release that video today, which is kind of problematic, because me and him, we usually happen to have the same takes. It's not that we plan or anything, but if you have like the same principles, the rest follows. And now I will have to watch this video to know what not to say different things, right? Do something exceptionally weird and unique. You mean like this, huh? You know, the internet is forever. Now that I do that, there's probably going to be screenshots about it. Deport all Kavis dead or alive. The field. I should give a rest to the field. The field used to give me good super chats, and I remember that. Used to do that, I think it was 1 or 2 years ago. Alright. No, we're going to talk about some funny stories today, and I'm going to keep New York for tomorrow. Kind of interesting that they don't talk about the ideology, which is getting... my favorite take from the Twitter about it is like... there are differences. No, sorry, there are tensions between two communities. It's like, motherfucker, did the Jewish community did something to any other community in New York? Was there a Jew that went in and with a machete where black people gathered? Was that something that happened? Because I missed it. Maybe it was. Tensions between two communities. That is really interesting. You know, it's like when you're in high school and your 6th grade goes to pick on the 4th graders, you know, and you go there with numbers and you beat the crap out of the 4th graders, and then the teacher would say, yeah, there were tensions between the 6th and the 4th graders. It's like, no, that's not what happened, you know, just putting it out there. They opened the store, didn't they? Sarah is a cutie. Is Sarah in my chat? Sarah made another video talking about the gulags. Very interesting. The gulags. Hi, Antifa Romania. See, I actually gave a wrench to the anti-fascist movement of Romania. I generally don't care about communism in Romania. Last on my list of things that I care about. Romania is a corrupt country, if you don't know. You can bring back Lenin from the grave, put him to rule over Romania, and nothing will change. That's my take on it. Let me show you something interesting about Romania, right? A miracle happened. A miracle because I generally do not know how else to explain it. It's not a good miracle, by the way. You know, it's a bad miracle. Like when the snakes appeared in Egypt and started biting people, poisoning them, right? Like that type of miracle. It's not all miracles are good, you know, but they require divine intervention. Like it happens from a supernatural deity, a supernatural power, because you can't explain it any other way. Apparently, a cancer patient was set on fire during an operation. How? We don't know. Like, no, seriously, like, there is no news about how this has happened. And I'm really baffled. Like, I know my way around the operational theater. I'm not an expert because I didn't do the residency in surgery, right? Like, I kind of know. I got the gist of it. I know the theoretical things. I have witnessed a couple of surgeries, but, you know, can't say I've witnessed all of them. But how can you set a man on fire? This is bewildering, given to me. The only explanation is if the Lord decided to smite the sinner. Okay, so apparently he died after he was set on fire. Were they operating in a microwave? Like, how do you... No, seriously. There are a couple of medical equipment which do indeed cause burns, especially when you want to, let's say, seal a hemorrhage, right? You burn the artery in order to die. There are you can cause radiation burns, but I've never heard radiation burns to actually set someone on fire. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm legitimately curious, puzzled. They would say so. This is a hospital in the capital. Like, I would understand if it was somewhere in the rural area, you know, like I wouldn't think it's normal or acceptable, but it's understandable because they're understaffed, they don't have the tools. So I could somehow visibly, like, okay, maybe they just, you know, something short circuited there because it's very old and they didn't replace it. But oh, no, hold on. Like, the BBC is explaining it. The BBC is explaining it because I looked into the Romanian press and they didn't explain it, but this was updated 3 minutes ago. So now we have the explanation. All right, please enlighten me. How do you set fire to a freaking patient in a hospital ward? How? Apparently, they used an alcohol-based disinfectant on the woman before carrying out the surgery, and they used an electric... Oh my... How much alcohol did they use? My God. Okay, so yeah, they dosed her in alcohol, and then they used an electric scalpel, and this combusted. She suffered burns to 40% of the body and then died in a hospital a week later. They opened an investigation into the thing, and the victim's family told the media they haven't been told the gravity of the situation or the details or what happened. That would be an interesting conversation to have. Like, how do you even tell the family? It's like, oops, we set her on fire. How do you have that conversation? My God. Apparently that it was an accident. No, I believe it was an accident. Like, I don't think they did it on purpose. I don't think the doctor was there with the gasoline going, you know, but still. We found out some details from the press. Interesting place to live in a country where you find details from the press rather when you're the party involved. The health minister promised to investigate the traumatic incident. I understand the hospital lost its accreditation. And we hope to learn from this troubling episode, both myself and the Ministry of Health. It's like, look, if you're going to use an alcohol-based disinfectant, normally we use iodine or, you know, derivatives thereof, but like, okay, you're going to use alcohol-based disinfectant. Keep sparkly things away from it. It's like, Jesus. Romania spends the least of its healthcare system, the least on its healthcare system of any EU country. Well, when the wages are low, how do you expect people to spend as much as they do in Britain? I don't know. Like, do you think people shit money out of their asses here? Like, we're already taxed a lot. I'm surprised even some money even goes to the healthcare system due to the corruption that we have. But anyway, both per resident and a percentage of its GDP. It has the highest child mortality rates on the continent, along with an underdeveloped hospital infrastructure and a persistent shortage of medical staff. Yeah, because all the doctors are fucking off. Like, why would you stay in a country where this happens? It's just... Oh my God. Anyway. Man, let me see if I got any super chats. Did you see Putin's speech where he explained how the Allies created Hitler Germany? No, I haven't. The Allies created Hitler Germany. No, I'm actually unaware of that. I know the Soviets did work with the Nazis at a point in time. They even have this joint military parade, but it's not only that. Very few people know that In the Soviet Union, in the heartland of the Soviet Union, a large territory was dedicated for German military to train. Yeah, like a couple of things. I mean, the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact is a thing. What is my opinion on libertarian socialism and anarchism? I would have to look at the type of socialism that libertarian is, because I have no idea about it, so I can't talk about it. Anarchism, I don't think it can work simply because if you do not have like some entity that has the monopoly on force in order to keep people behaving, then you are going to have this entity coming up and imposing its will. For example, you have this in Italy, in Sicily, where after the revolution, the government lost a lot of power. So now you have the mafia coming in and taking over, and they were the ones that decided things. You have places like Somalia, where you have local gang lords, taking over. So I don't believe in anarchy. Both anarcho-capitalism and anarcho-socialism, I don't think they can happen. Because violence transcends any ideology, it transcends any form of culture, any language barrier. The person that can do violence the better is the one that is going to enact its laws. And this is how our societies are based on. Like, if you go out there and you protest like they do in France, what happens? The French state does violence against you. If the protesters would ever manage to do more violence than the state, then the state collapses. I don't know the main ideology of Antifa. Ooh, that's a harsh statement. I mean, I actually tweeted this, I believe today, about Antifa. Let me see if I can find it. Because I'm working on a video to talk about its history. And this is actually from Wikipedia. Now, again, I'm not saying that Wikipedia is always right or anything like that, but it's a lot easier to quote from it than for me to open a book and talk from it. But if you want, you can look at the sources. I don't think anyone will deny this. The first organization that was labeled Antifa was in Germany. And it was established by the Communist Party of Germany. And what's interesting to point out is that it wanted to unite all of the different socialist movements under one group and have a militant arm. And what's interesting is that it was actually controlled by the USSR, because the leadership of the Antifa group by Ernst Thälmann was loyal to the Soviet government headed by Joseph Stalin, to the extent that the party had been directly controlled and funded by the Soviet leadership in Moscow since 1928. The KPD described anti-fascist action as a red united front under the leadership of the only anti-fascist party, the KPD. But what's also more interesting is that what they understood by fascism is they actually believed to be capitalism. So for them, fascism was the late stages of capitalism. And they were actually more aggressive towards the people in the center, towards the SPD, than they were towards the Nazis. So, man, just I mean, that's their history, It's like you can say that maybe they changed now, and technically anyone can put on a mask and call themselves Antifa. But anyway, these streams when Joel Cole is awake. That is true. Let's talk about something that managed to boggle my brain a little bit. I have seen throughout the last 2 years constant cases regarding people from the United Nations being involved into child trafficking or boogering little kids. And, it's like the Catholic Church there. I'm not going to lie, it's like the Catholic Church. Another month, another case. I guess this is because of my job, because I have to constantly read the news, and I keep managing to deal with this and fight this. But I guess for the normal person, maybe you don't realize that it's a problem because you read the newspaper once or twice a day or something. But it seems that I found this from February 16, 2018, that over 3,300 people employed by the UN have been involved in raping people. Yeah, and it's like, weren't the United Nations concerned about anime? Like, what wasn't this like something that they were concerned of? And I'm saying, look, I pretty much agree. Anime is horrible. All right, all the plights and all the woes that children have to suffer nowadays is because of anime. And I'm pretty sure you need to have an extensive talk regarding anime. But before you do that, shouldn't you like prioritize talking about the shit that's happening in your corporation? Huh? In a way, it kind of makes sense because the way I figure is that some of the most hated people on Earth, the ones that are the most hated, are the Nazis, right? But after the Nazis, like even worse than the Nazis, happen to be pedophiles. Like literally everyone hates them. Like if you go to prison and it's find out that you're a chomo, other prisoners are going to shank you. It's literally that bad for them. And rightfully so, right? And the only way you can prosper, the only way an individual with these inclinations would be able to survive alongside normal society is if they're in positions of power or protected by people with positions of power. Like you would not be able to do this regularly unless you have protection. And this protection can be found in the Catholic Church, it can be found in the United Nations, it can be found by the Labour Party in Britain, you know, like horrible. Absolutely horrible. But what I am shocked is that it's very little talked about. Disgusting. Apparently this was also published in The Sun. Oh, and look, I haven't read the article, to be honest, in its entirety. I read a little bit and it's like, okay, I'm going to talk about it. But it seems like it's at the same scale as the Catholic Church. There are tens of thousands of aid workers around the world with pedo tendencies, but if you wear a UNICEF t-shirt, nobody will ask you what's up. You have the impunity to do whatever you want. So the funny thing is, and funny I mean as in dark humor, right? Like the gallow humor, is that again, like the people that are asked to take care of children, to protect children, are the ones that are harming them. And it's even worse. It's even worse. Like this professor estimates that only 1 in 10 of all rapes and assaults by UN staff are reported. Even in the UK, the reporting rate is just 40%. Horrible. Privatize the crematorium, I'm in the hospital. I mean, if it was a private hospital, it would be shut down by now, but it did lose its accreditation, so I guess we should look at that. Listening to Antifa is like getting a lecture on mental retardation from someone with Down syndrome. UN was created for one purpose, to control Germany. That's why the German clause is still in it. That's why the German is still a war enemy to them. I don't know, like, did they even have any decisions against Germany lately? Because from what I look at the UN, most of their decisions go against Israel. Like, if Israel would stop existing as a country, I think the people at the United Nations would start getting bored because they wouldn't have anything to do. You know, like maybe it's just me, but like every time I read in the news, it's like something Israel. To me, like the time I lost faith in the UN is when Saudi Arabia became the leader, the chairman on both the Human Rights Commission and the Women's Rights, and I was like, all right, okay, no. Like, how do you get, like, maybe you get the experts in misogyny and human rights abuses to be able to recognize them in other countries. Like, maybe this is why you put the expert hacker in charge of the anti-hacking division, because he's so smart, he understands how hacking works, so maybe that's why. They don't need to make decisions against Germany now because they control Germany. Okay, I do not understand what you mean by that, but they control Germany right now. That's why Germany is leading in supporting resolutions against Israel. I mean, I did find that funny, to be honest, because Germany is one of the only two nations in the world where you can get citizenship based on DNA. Like, if you can prove you are a descendant of Jewish people, you can get citizenship in Germany and in Israel, right? So these are the two countries. And then you look at Germany, taking decisions against Israel. It's like, what are they doing? Like, why? Huh? Because I remember when Trump wanted to decided to move the embassy from she wanted to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Germany was livid about it, and Angela Merkel even said that the relationships with the U.S. have worsened, and it's like, why? Oh my god. I got a question from Antifa Romania. What do you think about Dreapta Liberală? The liberal right party of Romania is a far-right, ultra-capitalist party ruled by ex-collaborator from the security named Viorel Cataramă. He was on Antenna 3. I don't really follow Romanian politics, to be honest, but I'll tell you the issue with Romanian politics and why I don't follow them. If you want to start a new political party, if you want to start something new in my country, it doesn't matter what ideology, it doesn't matter what, it's next to impossible to do so because of the bureaucracy. Like, they will always find some issues with the number of signatures you gathered, with the number of paperwork that you have, which is why Romania is dominated by the same parties throughout most of the decades. With few exceptions, some name change, some other, but it's usually the same political parties. Now, if you do manage to have a party and you're actually successful, I think the furthest right party that was starting to be successful that I know of was Becali's party. He called himself the Warrior of Light. He thought that Jesus whispers in his ear. He was a shepherd that also owned a football club or something like that, and he was like the most nationalist person that I know of. Like, if I think of someone that had a Jesus tattoo on his cock, it was Gigi Becali. Let me just show you some pictures of him so you can understand. Alright, like this is the guy. Right? Like this is the guy which, in my opinion, had one of the most nationalist parties which my country had to offer. Okay? He got arrested for corruption. Because that's what happens in my country. Like, if you have a small party, okay, and you manage to gain success, like the moment he went a little bit into the polls, he got arrested. Now, he's not into politics, and there's no more corruption. Like, I'm not saying that he's not corrupt. I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. What I'm trying to say is that as long as you're corrupt, but you don't inconvenience people, and you shut the fuck up and you sit in your own bench and you do what you're told, it's fine. Nothing will happen. Okay? But the moment you start actually making waves and talking things that you're not supposed to talk about, boop. And he's not the only one. Like, there are leftists, there's like people from all over the parties, right? Like, the moment they're not part of the establishment, doesn't matter. Like, you can be as far left as you want. You can be even more left than Stalin, but if you're actually making your own party and you're making wave and you go against the establishment, then sadness. I think this actually happened with the leftist party we have here, the United We Save Romania, or something like that. You know, one of their leaders started talking against the president, and immediately he got placed under investigation for corruption or something. And then when he stopped talking against the president, like, the investigation went away. It's just like, what are we talking about? What politics? What do you want me to talk about politics here? What? Anyway. Why is YouTube telling me it's only 23 people watching? Because I know that's a lie. The comments are going way too fast. Yeah. So, by the way, speaking about the party Alternativa Dreapta, like, this was one of the only ways you could, at the time, get the Social Democrats, the PSD, to lose votes, because they were a populist party operating in rural areas, and they would never get into power, but the more votes they got, the less votes the PSD got. You also have to think into the macro way of viewing things. Thank you, Thor Jones. Anyway, let's talk something else besides Romanian politics, because most people here are probably not from Romania. So, this is what I'm going to talk in my video tomorrow, right? Like this is something that bewilders me. Apparently in New York, more and more black individuals are deciding to attack Jewish people. And they're being caught. They're asked, like, why did you do this? Were you upset because you got stuck in traffic? Did he take your parking spot? No, I hate him because he's Jewish. So they're very open and honest about it. Like, they're not trying to hide their anti-Semitism or anything. And these attacks culminated with a man wielding a machete going into a synagogue on Hanukkah. Apparently, the motif, the reason he did this is still hidden. Okay, fair enough, but, you know, like, you can kind of put two and two together. Like, why is a guy with the machete in a synagogue on Hanukkah? You know, like, and a lot of Jewish people online, which are supposed to protect other Jews, I assume, right, are obfuscating the issue. And they're obfuscating it to levels that I have never seen obfuscation. It's like the situation in New York, and let's be clear, we don't know who perpetrated the Bansi attack yet, is massively complicated and a growing division among two communities. What we need right now is a way to find solidarity with each other against our shared enemy of white supremacy. So, the situation is complicated, but it's white supremacy. How is a black person murdering Jewish people white supremacy? They want to drive me insane. Honestly, like, one day I will see something so retarded written that I will think this cannot be written by a human, and I'll start to believe into the old gods of the Lovecraftian mythos. You know, like, you need to be someone with powers that go beyond that of normal mortals, that when you write something in text, it causes people to become insane when you're reading it. They literally do not want to talk what the issue is. And I'm like, look, I'm not in New York. I'm not a Jew. It's not me getting slashed by the machetes. But I do feel bad for these people. I legitimately do. Do you know why I feel bad for them? Because when their leaders turn their backs on them, when the government turns their back on them, and they do turn their back on them, because if you're not willing to name the problem, you are not going to find the solution. And I'm thinking about these actual Orthodox Jews in New York. Like, if they will start showing some muscles, if they militia up, if they arm up, and they get in an altercation, they're going to end up in prison. It's kind of sad. It really is. But it's what's happening. It's just insane. And you get articles after articles, right? Like, look at this. Woman accused of assaulting 3 Jewish women arrested again day after release. So what's happening is that you have black, what do they call, advocacy groups, which have pressured New York, the government in New York, to make it so that you can be released without bail. Now, obviously, there is something in the ideology there, because I don't think black people are born with the idea of hating Jews. Like, I refuse to believe that. So there must be an ideology which is convincing these people that Jewish are the enemy. But we don't know, because no one wants to point the finger and name who the problem is. I mean, you know, I genuinely think this is the spice melange of diversity. The spice melange, because otherwise there's no explanation. You know, every time, like, you look at the narrative, right? It's the white man versus everyone else. Well, no, everyone else versus the white man or some shit like that. And when the narrative breaks and you have, like, 2 minorities going against each other, the intersectionals, they have, like, this ladder that they know who to side with, right? So if you have a man going against a woman, they always side with the woman. If you have a woman going against a transgender, they always side with the transgender. Like, it's very strict, right? Like, they have the ladder. And on top of the ladder is the spice melange. The spice melange of diversity. That's what I think is happening in New York. Without actually knowing anything else. And maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe I'll be proven wrong. But I definitely have an idea, and I think it's this pois melange. I mean, look, no, it's seriously, like this month alone, there were like 6 or 7 cases. Look at this lady. Look at her.
Present
Look at her.
the Torah. The only time the Jews have ever been present among us is to open their outposts, their retail stores, to sell us damaged, cheap goods marked up against the price. They were down there in the cotton fields in the Mississippi Delta teaching the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants who were too stupid to keep us in check after the end of the Civil War. It was the Jews that have taught the white man all the way up to the NBA right now.
His head is like one of those those little toys you put on your car, and it goes like, look at his head, look at his head.
NBA right now. A modern day Jew, white man. All the way up to the NBA right now. A modern day microcosm of a plantation. Minister Farrakhan, contrary to this idea, he attacks them. He is Allah's weapon against them as a life-giving son. He is exposing them. He is...
And they won't talk about it. They refuse to address it. They just won't. And again, like, the problem is that the actual Jewish community that's there, you know, they seem to be Orthodox Jews. They're not the ones that seem to be writing articles in the BBC or leading the ADL or something. No. They're kind of fucked at this point. Like, if the... Obviously, the guy with the machete was arrested and he's now held in prison. But apparently, if a black person decides to, like this woman did, right? The one that decided to assault 3 Jewish women gets arrested, then gets released, and she assaults again. And no one wants to talk about it. It's fucked up. But again, I don't live in New York. I don't even have a horse in this race. I genuinely, I'm looking at this as the most objective person possible. Like, you know, like if I was a white supremacist, I would be like, good. You know, more division in the left. But no, I genuinely care. I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm empathetic. Maybe I care too much. Let's see. Increase your own microphone level. My ears are exploding when you play video clips, so are 5 times as loud. My mic is almost to the max. Oh, no, it's not. No, shit. Okay. Now we do it. Victimless crimes are not crimes. I disagree with this. Like, okay, then piracy wouldn't be a crime. I don't know, like identity theft. Oh no, maybe that is a victim crime. But there are a lot of victimless crimes that are actually harmful. And you can argue that almost every crime does have a victim in some way or capacity. Like, if I decide to drive without a seatbelt and I get into a car crash and then I'm taken to the hospital, then the other people's taxpayer money are going to be used in order to heal me. Money that could have gotten to another person that didn't have the same control upon their future like I did, which would have just to put the or for example, if you walk with the car, right, and you decide to go on the other way, and you don't commit an accident, or you're speeding 100 miles per hour over the speed limit, and you don't kill anyone. Well, yeah, technically it is a victimless crime because you didn't kill anyone, but you do pose a danger to society. So people want me to play more Detroit Life is Tumblr. I will. I wanted to finish the Jedi game first, but didn't manage to do it. Kind of like the game, but it's really difficult and tedious. Looks like blacks finally figured out who owned the slave boats. I did hear about that. Like I did see a lot of people from the far right suggesting that a lot of slavers were Jewish, but I never actually found any evidence. You know, like I heard the claim, but I never found that they were Jewish. Okay, right. Let's talk about something more cheerful. Why do you guys give me the gloomies, huh? Why do you guys have to drag me to talk about these things? Let me just make sure that you don't get to see what's on Twitter, because on Twitter every now and then I do get people sending me titties, and if I manage to get one on YouTube, there might be problems. But just go past through all of these things. Oh yeah. So look, I found out about the UN, right? Like because we talked about the UN and Germany. And look how many resolutions the UN is sending towards countries, right? And you got like 18 resolutions towards Israel. One towards the US, one against Iran, one against Syria, and one against North Korea, and two against Russia. But then you have countries that have like massive human rights violations, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like Pakistan, you know, and none of them seem to have any resolutions against them. And it's like, okay, but your bias is kind of showing, you know, and I don't even, I wouldn't call myself an Israeli lover or something like that. You know, it's just like, you look at it and it's like, okay, that's kind of fucked up. That doesn't seem to be objective to me. Yeah, speaking of these things, the Hong Kong protests fit the definition of a fascist movement. How can you say something like this with a straight face, huh? I bet this person is a communist. Ah, there we go. Top writer in climate change, countering the lies of capitalism and imperialism. And then you say that Hong Kong protesters fit the definition of a fascist movement. Like, the Chinese government isn't a democratic government. It's not legitimate. It grabbed power from the people, killed millions of people with their Great Leap Forward. And now the people from Hong Kong who want to reject that and want to go their own separate way are fascists. Alright, so apparently he complains about masked young men in Hong Kong brutally attacking people for not agreeing with their pro-capitalist agenda. By the way, from what I could gather right now, Hong Kong seems to be an insurrection. Like, it's no more longer, you can't call it a protest. I have friends that live in Hong Kong, and they told me that there's more than 3 million people on the street. And you can notice this in their latest democratic elections. The pro-Chinese representatives were just completely crushed. So, no, like, in Hong Kong, you do have an actual insurrection. Like, people legitimately want to go their own separate way at this point. They want independence. So, it's not accurate to compare them with, I don't know, the Yellow Vests in France, the Black Lives Matter protests in the United States, right? Like, when you have that big of a number, yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I honestly expected the Chinese to actually send the military in by now. But apparently they didn't. So, the guy hasn't been able to help thinking of every time in history where fascism and normalized reactionary violence have taken root. Man, you're a communist. Even Kropotkin and the communist Karl Marx was talking about a violent revolution. Like, violence doesn't belong just to the fascists. Like, you can have Islamists that do violence. You can have capitalists that do violence. You can have communists that do violence. Like, violence in itself doesn't belong to one ideology. Jesus. Hong Kong protesters have taken off their masks of progressive populism and revealed themselves and their backers for what they are. Right-wing ideologues who are eager to use the tools of fascism, including its brazen, violent aspects, to crush those who stand in the way of the capitalist power. But by this logic, you can also say that Antifa is fascist because they're using violence against MAGA supporters in the US. I mean, come on. What other conclusion could be made upon seeing the routine public beatings, displays of American far-right symbols like Pepe the Frog, an open embrace of American rightist politicians? So what I noticed that he's doing is he literally doesn't talk about what actually led to people behaving this way. There was, I believe, a protester that lost an eye. And this is why people actually started using like Pepe the Frog with one eye out of its socket in order to show solidarity with that protesters. I mean, you have the police from Hong Kong that are kidnapping people in the middle of the night, beating them senseless, in some cases killing them, using gas on protesters, using the mafia to crack down on the protesters. Like, yeah, obviously at one point people are going to respond in kind. I mean, this is so one-sided. And apparently the problem is that this is a campaign by fascists who align with the US NATO empire. My God, I haven't seen people talk like this since I was a kid, that I was reading like the Scânteia, they called it, like a Romanian communist press. It's just like... Oh, and they talk about the petty bourgeoisie. Oh my God, he read the Das Kapital. It's appropriate to call the protesters fascists because that's what they've participated in. Perfectly fits the historical definition of fascism. A development where the capitalist class maintains its power by stoking reactionary sentiments which rally the petty bourgeoisie sections of society. You know what's actually funny about Hong Kong is that most of the petty bourgeoisie, as you call them, and most of the capitalists, the ones that actually own the means of production, they're siding with China. They don't want instability. They like doing business and making money with the help of China. They don't like the protesters. The protesters are actually the plebs. My God, this guy is so out of touch, it is not even funny. Yeah, they literally do call everything fascism. You know, like, the funniest thing is that very few people actually read anything about fascism. Like, I'm yet to have a single leftist that accuses people of being fascists on every single sentence to actually explain to me what fascism is. Is he Jewish? I don't know. I don't fucking care. Let's see what super chat I got from the field. Woman declares her motive on tape. Motive unknown. Trumps America. Mainstream media. Yes. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. You know how few people actually know this quote? There's two things that you will mind blown every single leftist if you tell them. Number one, when I'm actually curious, I think Kubusk 7, the German in the chat would know. So let's go back to the time where Hitler got elected as chancellor. Which is the European leader that looked for help for other European leaders when Hitler got elected? He said, and I believe this is the quote, "What do we do now that this madman is in power?" Which European leader actually went throughout Europe trying to find, allies against Hitler? Maybe someone knows, huh? This is an examination, huh? Churchill says the Germans. Stalin. No, it's actually Mussolini, funny enough. And I'll tell you why. Like, Mussolini didn't like initially the Germans. He allied with them out of necessity because he saw that no one wants to stand against them. But this is his quote on race, and very few people know it. Like, when the left say fascism, they actually want to say Nazis. That's what they want to say. They don't like fascism is a different ideology. It's still abhorrent, by the way. It's still authoritarianism. You're still, there's this expression like, when you're under the boot of the government, it doesn't matter if the boot is left or the right boot. It's still a boot. But Mussolini said race, it is a feeling, not a reality. 95% at least, nothing will ever make me believe that biologically pure races can be shown to exist today. National pride has no need of the delirium of race. And no, it wasn't Stalin. Stalin actually gave weapons to the Germans, provided them a place where they could train. Let me show you something about, again, like, this should be taught in schools. Like, I generally don't know why this part of history isn't being taught. Like, are they ashamed or something? USSR, German March. Let's see. Since YouTube changed it, algorithm, it's kind of difficult to find it. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't show it if, maybe it got taken down for hate speech or something. No, I found it, okay. So look at this, right? This is the joint Soviet-Nazi military parade in Poland. This is why I generally do not care that much about ideologies. Like, people in power will do whatever it takes in order to benefit themselves. Like, I am so black-pilled on the left, right-leaning bullshit now, you know? It's like, you should never, like, if you read Karl Marx and then you read Mein Kampf, like, there is no way these two ideologies would ever be friends. And one could say, well, okay, maybe they invaded Poland because realpolitik, you know. But they even had joint marches together. They even gave weapons to one another. They collaborated more than just, invading one country. So it's really fucked up. When you see those things, you kind of roll your eyes and you go like, yeah, you know, like, when ideology hits the real world, that's what happens. Because World War I allies broke up Europe, create random borders, no one could know who is a friend and enemy, so everyone tried to be friends with everybody while waiting to stab him in the back. I do play Europea Universalis 4 a lot. I know it's an LGBT game, but okay. And one of the things there is that if you don't, like, if you play Germany and don't invade the USSR, eventually Russia invades Europe. And like, I think, why wouldn't that happen in history, actually? Like, they were building so much tanks and they were getting ready for war. Like, I generally think they wanted to see who wins. If the Allies would have won, they would have invaded the Allies. And if Germany would have won, they would have invaded Germany eventually. So, but anyway. Yeah, Hitler was Austrian, wasn't he? He wasn't German, I think. Is there a difference, though? Probably Germans will get upset now that I asked, huh? European Universalis 4 is an LGBT game, take it back. Alright, so I'm going to end the stream here. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you had fun. I hope I managed to entertain you a bit. Maybe we should talk a little bit about some comic books and movies next time, huh? What? You know what? Like, I'm actually thinking about this year. This was a really bad year for video games, wasn't it? You know, I'm actually curious. What do the socialists play? Hey, Antifa guy, what do you play? What video games do you like? And by the way, what video games did come this year? Like, I'm generally trying to think of great games that came out this year, and the only one that I can think of is Resident Evil. And that's literally it, isn't it? Control? Is Control good? I'll try to play it. Man, Greedfall is shit. Like, the story looks interesting, but when I actually play it, it feels clunky. It feels bad. It's not polished at all. It's just, I don't know. It's really unplayable to me. I got bored of it. So he likes GTA 5 and LGBT games. Look, Hearts of Iron 4, Europea Universalis 4. Command & Conquer. Okay, Command & Conquer is really great. I downloaded Red Alert 3. But the problem is that you don't have multiplayer anymore. Yeah, LGBT games, because I can't actually say on YouTube. You know, use your imagination what that means. You don't have, look at the graphics, man. Look at the graphics. It's horrible. Horrible. Compare that to something like, I don't know, Company of Heroes. Company of Heroes is a great game. It's a cultural game. Also, Arch plays it. If Arch Warhammer plays it, it's an LGBT game. According to Street Chats, Witcher 3 came out. Highest players is original. Yeah, so apparently people are playing more Witcher now that the TV show is out, and it actually managed to get more sales than other games that have came out this year. No, man, like, compare it to last year when you had God of War coming out. You had, I think it was like 5 or 6 good games that came out last year. But hopefully next game is going to be good. Like next year is going to be good. Next year we're having Resident Evil Nemesis. We're having the sequel from what is it? Crusader Kings. Crusader Kings 3 is coming out, if I'm not mistaken. We got maybe Diablo or I'm stretching it, isn't it? Anyway, right. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you all tomorrow.